Blessings, friends. It's Maya here with an astro update. Around May 5th and 6th, we'll be having a lunar full moon blood eclipse in Scorpio around 14 degrees. Lunar eclipses always fall on a full moon, which means completions, endings, and things coming to a head. Fixed signs such as Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius will likely feel this eclipse the most. Check the end of this audio recording to see what endings and in what areas of life are in a completion cycle for you based upon your rising sign. Eclipses in general are quite intense times. Added to that, we have the scorpionic energy and the fixed signs involved, which means a greater propensity for intensity and being less willing to change or be swayed. Just a little disclaimer, take a look at what houses Taurus and Scorpio fall in your personal natal chart for a more aligned view of where this eclipse will be affecting you. Also, keep in mind eclipses are wild cards. This means they're pretty unpredictable and can manifest in an array of ways. We as astrologers do our best to interpret the stars and what area of life will be most highlighted for you, depending on your chart or rising sign. These specific written and audio astro updates of mine are general readings and do not cover the full range of early and late degree placements. Neither do they take into account personal planetary aspects and the disposition within your natal chart. Okay, so here we go. With this eclipse falling in the passionate, intense, and impenetrable sign of Scorpio, opposing the patient, reliant, and pleasure-seeking sign of Taurus, there may be themes here of heavy, disruptive, emotional purging, and shedding light on some shadow areas of our life that have been deeply buried within our subconscious that we need to face. Scorpio is associated with the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's a very deep and occult-like archetype that goes into the depths of darkness to come out on the other side, gleaning illumination and transformation. Scorpio here will be coupled together with the South Node, which has to do with our karmic past, things that are deeply ingrained and embedded into us over many lifetimes. This coupling together with the South Node around the full moon eclipse emphasizes a need to let go, release, and surrender that which keeps us in an unhealthy, toxic, and cyclical loop. What fears do we need to face in order to transform? What toxicity have we been holding on to that needs to be transmuted? Scorpio here rules the 8th house of death and rebirth, transformation, destruction, regeneration, the taboo, occult-like subjects, other people's money, sex, and deep bonds. Uranus, the planet of sudden changes, will be conjunct the Sun, which is our ego and basic personality, in Taurus, and opposing the Moon in Scorpio, the Moon having to do with our intellect and our subconscious. This can call for an intense need to remove toxicity from our life in an abrupt fashion, either through volatility, seduction, manipulation, investigation, or destruction, which are all scorpionic themes. With the South Node in Scorpio involved, it's most likely to be themes that are needed to come up, worked through, and healed in a constructive way to find some groundedness, as the North Node, our calling and destiny, is in the sign of Taurus during this time. There may also be themes of weighing pros and cons to any given situation that arises, involving a breaking point, release, or emotional purge. There is a need during this eclipse to be thrown out of balance so we can learn to recenter ourselves properly going forward on our North Node path. With Mercury, the planet of communication, coupled with the North Node, our destiny, there could be some intense communication that propels us forward. Venus, the planet of love, squaring Neptune, the planet of imagination and delusion, there could be some illusion around our relationships at this time. Is something worse than what we believe it to be, or vice versa, is something better than what we thought it was? Where and in what relationships are we wearing rose-colored glasses, and how can we clear up the fog? We still have Mars, the planet of action and drive, in the nurturing, sensitive sign of Cancer, which can add to this eclipse being an emotional trigger. Yet on the other side of the spectrum, it could also help us be more compassionate, depending on the situation and where we're at on the spectrum of emotional capacity. Mars, the planet of action, will be squaring Chiron, the wounded healer. This can add a bit of victim energy, touching our deep wounds and vulnerabilities in a way that pushes us out of our comfort zone to take our power back and be willing to heal. With Jupiter, the planet of expansion and luck, sextiling Venus, the planet of love and relationships, and Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, squaring Jupiter, expansion, and luck, there's an opportunity to glean wisdom from our experiences around this eclipse, catching any toxicity coming from ourselves or others before it expands or is exasperated. Do note the key planet rulers of this eclipse are Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, and Mars, the planet of action, drive, and war. Overall, with this eclipse involving the nodes and Pluto, there's a theme of major transformation associated with our karmic past and moving forward on our life's path calling. With it falling in the sign of Scorpio, anything under the surface that's been deeply hidden, such as secrets, addictions, or toxicity, will arise to the surface to be worked through. Whenever Pluto is involved and the South Node, it's always important to not resist what comes up, as it can manifest more intensely down the road in another planetary configuration. Again, with Mars in Cancer during this time and the South Node prominent, it may be difficult to release our habits. It may trigger our emotions and our sense of security, but there's an emphasis on surrendering, being accountable, and most of all, humbling ourselves to become the highest version of ourselves. Ego deaths may arise and emotions may be high, but do your best to stay calm and grounded and find security within yourself. Also note, eclipse energies and situations around these dates tend to last for 6 months. Any endings happening now or consequences from our actions now will take about 6 months to fully complete and phase out. What areas of life will this be happening for you? While following a tropical Placidus chart system, general horoscopes go by the rising sign for the most accurate general reading, as the rising ascendant sign is the sign your entire birth chart begins with and is oriented around. You can also look at your sun and moon sign secondarily for another angle of truth or a different window of perception. Lunar eclipse endings happening through the house for all signs. For Scorpio rising, this has to do with first house of self and identity, outward appearance, physical body, and new endeavors. With Sagittarius rising, this has to do with the 12th house of the unseen realms, secrets, spirituality, intuition, and the subconscious. For Capricorn rising, this has to do with the 11th house of large groups of people, friendships, and networks and teams. For Aquarius rising, this has to do with the 10th house of tradition and institutional structures, career path, public reputation, and status. For Pisces rising, this has to do with the 9th house of global travel and higher learning, belief systems, religion, philosophy, and teaching. For Aries risings, this has to do with the 8th house of transformation and death and rebirth, sex, other people's money, passive income, and deep bonds. For Taurus rising, this has to do with the 7th house of personal and business relationships, partnerships, contracts, marriage, and collaborations. For Gemini rising, this has to do with the 6th house of health and service to the world, daily routine, organization, work, employment, fitness, diet, and the betterment of society. For Cancer rising, this has to do with the 5th house of creativity and self-expression, romance, children, hobbies, art, and creative projects. For Leo rising, this has to do with the 4th house of home and roots, home, family, mother, femininity, lineage, emotional security, and foundation. For Virgo rising, this has to do with the 3rd house of communication, local travel, and siblings, neighbors, community, how we think and speak, the mind. And for Libra rising, this has to do with the 2nd house of money and possessions, how you make money, your environment, self-worth, self-esteem, sensual pleasures in life, value, and income. Thank you so much for listening. Lots of love and eclipse blessings to you all.